Hello, Palombi Middle School. This is Daryl Johnson II. I'm a composer and I write band and orchestra music. So one of the things I do aside from writing music is I work with high schools and middle schools like you guys all across the country. And up until this year, I've been traveling around quite a bit. I think I've done schools in some 40-something states, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been such an absolute pleasure to be able to meet all you guys and work with you. And I've been to Chicago at least a few times, and I was going to be there again this past year in 2020 to do an activity with you guys, but we all know about that. So what we're going to do now is an online activity where I'm going to teach you a little bit about the process of composition, show you my process, and work with you to create your own composition so that by the end of this, you will hopefully have a piece of music that you can keep with you and also perform this semester, hopefully, if we have the opportunity to, and if not, this fall. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I know a lot of people get intimidated by the idea of writing music and it seems very overwhelming and daunting. Don't get stressed out. It's going to be really simple. I have a process that I'm going to walk you through. If you just pay attention a little bit, it should be no problem at all. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I really look forward to seeing what you come up with. So I'm going to go off camera now so I can show you what I'm doing, but I'll be back and forth on here to talk to you and walk you through each of the steps. And it shouldn't be too bad. So I know Miss Brown has you already working on some found sound things, which I think are really cool. And I'm looking forward to incorporating those too. And we'll talk about some of the sounds that you're working with and how they can fit into what we're doing. But in the meantime, just sit tight. Don't let yourself get stressed out. And I look forward to doing this with you and seeing you live-ish on Zoom in a few days, whenever you're seeing this. So, all right, let's go on to the real work of this. All right, so as I mentioned, so many people are deeply perplexed by the notion of how music is composed, so we're going to break it down right here. You guys may be playing my composition zeros and ones right now. Here's also some of the other work I've written. This is Love the Adventure. It's a high school piece full of action and, of course, adventure. And this is Midnight Raid, also a high school piece, along similar lines, but a lot darker and heavier and dramatic. And this is Aluminum Sharks. It's kind of jazzy, and this one is for middle school. So those are just a few examples. Now, despite how complex this music looks, there is a simple framework that they all come from. Music is made of three parts: melody, harmony, and rhythm. Melody is the easiest to explain because we all grow up singing and playing different melodies. The melody is the part of the song you usually sing when you're describing it to someone. Melodies are simple, like or Then there's harmony. Let's come back to that though. Finally, there's rhythm. Rhythm is also very simple because anyone can create a rhythm, and we all have. Here's a rhythm. Here's another rhythm. This is a rhythm. Even this is a rhythm. Anytime there is a note, it has a rhythm, even if it's just a whole note. So we've got melody, which we understand, and we've got rhythm, which we also understand. The challenge in music composition for students is to learn harmony. This is the only one of the three that we don't learn from age 2. 2-year-olds can create melodies. Even 1-year-olds can create rhythms, but most people will never create a harmony. It's a little complicated, but not too bad if you just pay attention and look really closely for the next 2 or 3 minutes. You all know the notes of the B flat scale, right? We have B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A. So here's what you need to know. Pull out a sheet of paper and get a pencil, and we'll do a little activity right here. We talked about the B flat scale, so go ahead and pull out your sheet of paper with me and write down the notes of the B flat scale. So we'll start here. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A. So B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A. And if you're doing a different scale like F major, you know the notes are F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. Or if you're doing E flat major, you got E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D. So how you figure out the chords for each key is just by counting in thirds. So chords are also called triads. Tri, as we know, means 3. And so to figure out the chords for B flat, you just count in 3. So you start on B flat, and so the first one is going to be B flat. And then you count 3. B flat, C, D. That's 3. So you put a D up here. And then D, E flat, F. Each time you start on the last one you ended on. So to figure out the notes for B flat, C, D, D, E flat, F. And those are the 3 notes of the B flat chord, B flat, D, and F. If you wanted to do C, now you start on C. C, D, E flat. So we already have the C, so C, D, E flat. Start again on E flat, F, G. Great. So to do D, now you start on D. D, E flat, F. Start again on F, F, G, A. And now we're going to do E flat. Again, we're counting in 3s. E flat, F, G, G, A, and then you go back over here for B flat. For F, start on F, F, G, A, B flat, C. For G, G, A, B flat, C, D. And the last one, starting on A, B flat, C, D, E flat. So these 3 notes are the chords for each of the notes of the B flat scale. And so each of these chords, now, these are the chords, has a name. So this one is B flat major. This one is C minor. This one is D minor. This is E flat major, F major, G minor, A diminished. Now, you're going to wonder, why is this B flat major, but this is C minor, and that's D minor, but that's E flat major, and that's F major, and that's A diminished, and this is why? Those are details that we don't have to get into for now. You just have to know that every key that you play in is going to follow the same pattern for the major scale. B flat, C minor, D minor, E flat, F, G, A diminished. If we were using the key of E flat, like we said, it would be E flat major, F minor, G minor, A flat major, B flat major, C minor, D diminished. Same pattern, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So we're focusing on B flat here today. So these are the notes of the B flat key, and these are the names of the chords that we're going to use. So what happens a lot of times when you're beginning to write music, young composers, you want to start with one note, and this note sounds good, so you just hit that note, and then you're like, okay, what do we do next? So you have another instrument, hit another note, and it sounds okay, and then you have another instrument, hit another note, and then after a while you keep adding notes until it just turns into this big mess. And you're like, why does it sound so terrible? So the reason why we learn harmony is because when everything is using that same pattern, everyone's using the same chords, that's how you keep it sounding nice. You know, it's kind of like if you were to write an essay and you just started putting down words from any language, any letters, just about just throwing letters together. No, we don't want that. We want each of the things we put down on that paper to be an actual word. And when they're words, then you can read it. If it's just a bunch of letters on a page, then it's a mess. And so just picking notes at random is the same thing as writing an essay where you just throw a bunch of letters onto a page and see how it sounds. Then you just get, it doesn't mean anything. So what we're going to do now is take our three parts, melody, harmony, and rhythm, and use them as a basis to start our piece. But before we do that, I want to explain to you a little bit about how I begin my music. And so all those pieces I played for you at the beginning, they start like this. Just 5 staves of music, actually. I use 5 staves, but for this, we're going to use 4 staves. So let's go back to the music. So here are the 4 staves of music that we're going to begin with. The reason why we start with 4 staves is because we don't want to get bogged down with instruments. If you start writing for all 30 instrument staves or whatever, it's just going to be too big of a mess. It's complicated, it's overwhelming. We don't want to get overwhelmed. So we just start with 4 staves that don't have any instruments, so we don't have to think about what instrument's going to play this, how high can the flute play, how low can the saxophone play, how loud can the French horn play, will these two sound together, is this going to be okay in that range, what is the fingering, what is the transposition. These are all messy details. Just start with the music right now. 4 staves just like this is what we're going to begin with. Now you should already have a template that looks like this. So looking at these staves, we know that we have 3 things to do. Do you remember what they are? Melody, harmony, and rhythm. You can do them in any order you want, but for the sake of this presentation, we'll go in reverse order. So the first thing we will do for each measure is choose rhythms. You can choose a whole note, 2 half notes, a quarter note, even eighth notes. Your job is to fill one measure. Here's an example. 1 half note and 2 quarter notes. That's one measure. Another could be 6 eighth notes and a quarter note. Another could be a half note and 4 eighth notes. Another is 4 quarter notes. Anything you want as long as it fits into one measure. So for the first section of this assignment, we will assign a measure to each student in class. Each of you will be responsible for creating a rhythm for your measure. On your sheet of paper with the 4 staves, mark your measure. Okay guys, for 7th grade percussion, the top line we have Oliver, Nate, River, Caitlin, and Jacob. The second line we'll go ahead and have Daniel, Jacob, Oliver, Nate, and I'll do that last measure. And then for the third line we have River, Caitlin, Daniel, Jacob, and Mrs. Brown. And for the bottom staff we'll have Oliver, Nate, River, Caitlin, and Daniel. For 7th grade wins, for the top line we'll have Aiden, Cole, Evan, Jay, Kellen, and Reagan. The second line will be AJ, Demoria, Everett, Jaden, Meadow, Sam. The third line will be Angel, Eli, Freddie, Kayla, Miles, and Slamrin. The bottom line will be Ariana, Estrella, Grant, Karina, Natalia, and Miss Brown. For 8th grade percussion, the top line will be Jade, Lincoln, Hazel, Isaac, Nate, and Ellie. The second line will be Daniel, Nate, Hannah, Josie, Hannah, and Michael. The third line will be Brandon, Ellie, Michael, Jade, Josie, and Mrs. Brown. And the bottom line will be Lincoln, Hazel, Isaac, Daniel, Brandon, and me. And for the 8th grade wins, the top line will be Cole, Greta, Izzy, Kelly, Lily, Maverick, Paige, and Tyler. The next line will be Cooper, Hannah, Julian, Kevin, Maddie B, Molly, Paul, and Uziel. The third line will be Forrest, Henry, Casper, Kylie, Maddie H, Nick, Sam, Miss Brown. And the bottom line will be Gabby, Isaac, Kai, Kyra, Maddie M, Noah, Shane, and me. So those are your assignments. Now, after you sort that out, you guys will hopefully be able to clap through each of the line. Miss Brown can guide you through that if you guys have time to get through this particular part of the process. So basically, she'll have you each divide up into, first clap through all the lines as a group and then divide up into 4 groups and clap each one of the lines individually as each of the 4 groups so you can hear how the rhythms work together. And then after that, we can move on to the next step. And welcome back, my rhythmic friends. You should now have 4 lines of fantastic rhythms. Now, let's do the harmony. As you remember, we talked about the 7 chords in the B-flat key. In order to make sure that our composition sounds smooth and cohesive, as a class, pick a chord for each measure. There are no real wrong answers, it's just how you feel. If you want a bright sound for the measure, pick a major chord like B flat, E flat, and F. Those are bright chords. If you want a dark sound, choose a minor chord like C minor, D minor, or G minor. If you want a weird or awkward sound, you can go with A diminished. Here's an example of what you could do here. You could start with B flat major, then go to G minor, then E flat major, then F major. Another example could be C minor, then E flat major, then B flat major, then G minor. Ms. Brown, if you have a keyboard available or a piano, please feel free to play through the chords to help everyone hear what sounds good to them. After you select your chords, write the chord you choose above each measure for each measure. So each measure should have a chord. And come back to the video when you finish. Okay, now you should have your rhythms and your harmony. Everyone now return to your individual measure that you created your rhythm for. Your next job is to select notes for your rhythm, but you won't select just any note. Look at the chord for that measure and select a note from that chord. But there are two exceptions. If your measure was on the bottom line, that means you are in charge of the bass line. When it comes to the bass line, you want the first note of the measure to be the root of the chord. What is the root? If it's a B flat chord, the root is a B flat. If it's a D minor chord, the root is a D. If it's an A diminished chord, the root is an A. If it's a G minor chord, the root is a G. Kind of get where we're going there? So if you're a bass person, the first note of your measure should be the root. After that, you can repeat the root or choose a different note from the chord. If your measure was on the top of the staff, that means you're in charge of the melody. You have a special privilege because you can do just whatever you want pretty much, almost, as long as it's in the B flat chord. So the melody gets to break the rules. The only thing you want to do is make sure the first note of your measure is a note from the chord. After that, you can do whatever you want. If you're in the middle two staffs, just pick notes from the chord. So to rehash, find the measure you're responsible for, the one you did the rhythm for. Then look up to the top of your measure and see what your chord is that's being used, and then choose a note from that chord to pick the notes from your rhythm. Let's do some examples real quick. Let's say that the 7th grade percussion class decided for their composition they were going to use B flat, F, C minor, E flat, G minor, okay? And so that's their chord situation going on there. And this is how the process would work. So maybe Oliver says he's going to do a half note and 2 quarter notes. By the way, none of you can use these exact examples. These are just examples for this demonstration. So you have to come up with your own rhythms. So if that was Oliver's rhythm, what he'd do is, that's his rhythm, he'd look up to the chord for his measure, which is B flat. And so because he's a bass note, he's going to have to start on the root of the chord, which is B flat. Then after that, he can do whatever he wants. So say he wants to go up to D and then down to B flat. Let's say Nate, who has a melody line here, he's going to say his rhythm was 4 eighth notes, a quarter note, let's say dotted quarter note, and an eighth note. Okay, so he's going to want to start with a chord tone. So we know the notes of the F chord are F, A, and C. So he could maybe start with that chord tone A, and then he'll go up to C, another C, another C, and then maybe he'll go back down to a B flat, and then down to an A. Because after he does the chord tone at the beginning, he can kind of do whatever he wants. Now, the middle people there, they just need to follow the chord tone. So say Oliver had a whole note there, he would just need to choose a note from the C minor chord, which would be C, E flat, or G. So say he did his C, E flat, fine. So they just need to choose chord tones. The bottom people are the ones that, and the top people are the ones that have the rules. One more example here. Let's say Caitlin here has 2 eighth notes, quarter note, and a half note. That's a whole measure. So Caitlin's going to want to start with a chord tone. Her chord for this measure is E flat, and those notes are E flat, G, and B flat. So say she chooses a G, and then she goes down to an F, and then an E flat. Great. Excellent job. And so that's how the process works. You'll have your rhythms there, and then you just look at the chord at the top of the measure and choose a note from that chord to fill out your measure. If you're a melody person, you can choose notes outside of the chord. If you're the rest of the people, the notes need to be inside the chord. And again, bass people start with the root of the chord. All right, so that's a basic example of how this is going to go. Okay, so it was a little bit of a journey, but we made it to the end. So now we should have our 4 staffs filled out. We have the rhythm all done. We picked our harmony, and the melody worked itself out because the people who actually were assigned to the top lines ended up creating the melody for our piece. So that's basically what we need to do for now. If you have any questions, Miss Brown can help you, and she can reach out to me as well if there are any questions. Those of you who have a YouTube channel are welcome to ask questions in the comment section of this video too, if Ms. Brown gives you the link to that, and I'd be happy to correspond with you. So that's where we can leave it for this moment, and then we will talk in person a little bit later so that we can proceed onward. So I hope it was fun, and I look forward to seeing you guys' work.